Namaste, Devi Gauravani Pachaline, Nivasisha Sunyavadi, Pashtatara Satarine, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shia Dvaita Katadha, Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I was just looking through questions which we've yet to cover. We have, perhaps we haven't got halfway yet. So this is like a separate study of a different book itself. So I reckon we got another, at least another, perhaps 10 more sessions of answering these questions. So, which is very good. It's very nice. It really gives us a chance to thoroughly go over what we studied the last 18 months or so. But if anyone's eager to, because our next project is the Bhagavad Gita, is that still?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Give devotees a bit of a mind rest. Does that make sense?
Well, one sense, yeah.
It gives them a bit of freedom.
Yeah, so let's see how we go about that, the Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, so we left off last week on this subject, on the semblance of devotion. And the semblance means it's not the real thing. It looks like it's a resemblance of. Externally, it may seem to be devotion, but internally, the knowledge may be corrupt. It may not be at all pure. It may be completely for selfish reasons that one is engaged in devotional acts. So that's a semblance of devotion. A big study of that in Srila Bhakti-Rasamrita. And actually, the study of semblance of devotion was so deep in Srila Bhakti-Rasamrita that I had to miss parts of it for our sake. So I missed a couple of, not a whole chapter, I missed some parts of it because I thought you might get, like thinking, oh, this is too much. Anyway, last week we left you with a question. We left you with some homework. Let's see what good students did their homework. So the homework was question 2. Was it question 2? Did I get that right?
What are the results? What are the results?
Yeah, so what are the 3 kinds of resemblance of devotion that's mentioned?
I did it.
Yeah, go
on. Karma Mishra Bhakti.
Well done.
Elevate to heavenly planets. Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Merge in Brahma Jyoti. And Yoga Mishra Bhakti. One realizes who Krishna is.
Yeah, very good. Well done. Anybody else get that?
Do I get star marks for Mangalati Suite?
Well done. So quite simple.
Is that all? Okay, thank you.
Karma Mishra. So Mishra means mixed.
Mixed.
So that means one's bhakti is mixed. It's not sudha, which is pure. It's mixed. It can be mixed with karma, gyan, or yoga. Yeah. So well done. Great. You got that one. Good start. So then, why should devotees satisfied by? Let me just check what that question right. Is it right? Why semblance of devotion? Why should devotees satisfied by practicing a semblance of devotion exert themselves to attain pure devotion? You understand the question? Sometimes we may be quite satisfied with what we might be satisfied with our material situation, satisfied with the amenities that we have and the life that we have, and not feel the need to make an endeavor to attain pure devotion?
I kind of wrote
Oh, you're
one
right. You're right answers as well. Great.
because I wanted to study. One has to make endeavor to advance in devotional service to get higher taste. If one becomes complacent, Maya is going to attack. Does that make sense? Is that kind of?
Does, yeah. So you say to list 10 reasons again. One is to.
One has to make endeavor to advance in devotional service to get higher taste.
Okay, so a higher taste, a principle, yeah, we need to go through the stages of devotion.
Yeah.
And come to a higher taste. Otherwise, there's a good chance, if you think you use the word.
We can become complacent and Maya is going to attack you because you think you're comfortable. You're doing your sadhana, you're ticking your boxes, and then, you know, the minute you put your guard down.
Yeah, what do you mean by Maya will attack you?
Like anything can creep in, you know, you can like, oh, I'm fine, I counted my runs, I've done this, I did my half an hour reading, I've done this and that, and then, okay, let me go and sit down, relax, go out. Well, you know what I mean? These are all.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you can sit down and you can go out.
No, but you can sit and watch something rubbish, or we can.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be like, anyway. That's what I'm thinking to myself. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know what others are thinking.
Anybody else on that? I'm just looking here, the answer from the Sutta Bhakti Chintamani. Let's just read here. As Mother Chandravali correctly said, that we have to realize that without making an effort to elevate ourselves, we will become a lord by what comes from a semblance of devotion, because it can give us all the perfections of dharmic acts. So economic development, okay, so bhakti abhas is a semblance, at least one is pious, one's doing a semblance of devotion. So from that will come artha, karma, and a semblance of moksha. But that will lead to janma, mrityu, jaya, doka, doshanudhashanam. Doesn't matter how pious you are, you're still gonna have to go through janma, mrityu, jaya. Yeah. Even if you're pious, it doesn't mean your grandchildren won't pack you off in an old age pension and leave you all alone. Yeah, it doesn't mean you won't have to go to the doctors with a bad back. Doesn't mean you might. It doesn't mean you'll be free from perhaps senility. You know, the very unpleasant aspects of this material world. So Marge mentions this. They cannot give the semblance of devotion cannot give you Krishna prema. Yeah. So that's what we're interested in ultimately. So as Mother Chandravali said, that we may become, unless we're, I think I gave the example before, isn't it? Of the strong currents of the Ganges. And unless you're, even if it's a very strong, even if you're a strong swimmer, you might go back. But in spiritual life, we can only tread water for so long. We have to be making some progress. So that's the danger of that. What are the results? Why should devotees satisfied by practicing semblance devotion exert themselves to attain pure devotion? Because you're going to sink in the ocean of material existence. Yeah. And we have already been sunken in that ocean. So let's try and get out of it. So very good, yeah. So question number 4. Let's see how many devotees with us. There are 10 devotees with us. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. Let's just see who's here. We have a dedicated crowd of devotees here. Thank you for joining. everyone. So the fourth question, how can one distinguish the symptoms of reflective semblance of love from the symptoms of pure devotion? So pratibimba is one word, pratibimba, I forget the other word, reflective and shadowy.
Chaya.
So,
Chaya.
yeah, chaya, thank you, yeah. So how to distinguish, so reflective semblance of devotion is?
Like the sun rays on the water.
Yeah, it's the Mayavad one is the,
Yes, the my-ness one, because the reflection is, the shadow is more connected than the
yeah,
reflection.
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Malavanga. That's correct. So now we're speaking, yeah. So how to distinguish between the two? Anyone has,
Distinguish.
By the actions?
yeah, right, well, it's a question which unless, because, anyway, go on, let's try. So someone, let me frame the question in another way. So it's a little bit easier. Someone may be imitating the symptoms of advanced devotion, say symptoms of ecstasy, yeah, tears even, or faltering of the voice. So this is the question actually. So how to tell the difference?
Yeah. I would say,
Yeah.
I don't know how obvious it is to an onlooker, but they're not connected to the source properly. So they won't be practicing certain elements of devotional service. Or
Yeah,
they
yeah,
won't
perhaps
be in the authorized way.
yeah, very good. Remember, there is 9 symptoms, for example, given of abhava bhakta, which cannot be hidden and cannot be imitated. So one of them, for example, is wasting time. Someone who's at the level of bhava, then they are naturally, spontaneously, they have natural attraction to the activities of bhakti 24 hours a day. So they're not going to find a taste in watching Pakistan versus India in cricket or reading the Times. So someone who's say Mayavadi here, who's in kirtan and then imitates great ecstasy, as Mother Lavanga said, if you was to look at their activities throughout the day, then they wouldn't be in line with the symptoms of an advanced devotee. So one of them is humility, great humility. One of them is attachment to the holy name, attachment to the holy places of the Lord, freedom from, there's freedom from pride. We said that, humility. There's other symptoms as well, but I forget now. 8 symptoms of bhava. Anyone can remember those 8 symptoms of bhava? And not wasting time, not attached to material sense enjoyment. They are detached. So different symptoms. So that's how you can tell the difference. Let's just read here. Maharaj mentions that the question, it hints at something that has been a trouble, he mentions plagued, that has plagued Vaishnava society throughout centuries. And that's imitation of ecstatic symptoms. Yeah. So he quotes Rupa Goswami, who writes about this. This was 500 years ago, let alone now. Yeah. So basically, Kali are gross materialists who pose as great devotees and make a public display of ecstasy. So they're motivated by what can we say they're motivated by? If someone is making a exhibition of ecstatic symptoms,
Trying to be famous.
fame, yeah, fame,
Have followers,
followers,
wealth.
wealth, where you're getting all the ones that are here, you must, and following women or vice versa, and whatever, yeah. So, whereas Vaishnavas, they will, what do they do when they have ecstatic symptoms?
Because they are in Krishna conscious. They are really meditating on Radha and Krishna.
Yeah, but you know, devotees will experience, devotees may experience
They
ecstatic
just
symptoms.
they
Sorry?
hide and they don't want to show them.
Yeah, that's it. They're very, yeah, like I said, they're very reticent to actually exhibit any symptoms of astasapaka or ecstasy. But sometimes Srila Prabhupada, one time, not more than one time, Srila Prabhupada went into samadhi of ecstasy, chanting Jaya Radha Madhava. And one time, it was described as quite intense because hundreds of devotees in the temple room, and you could hear a pin drop because Prabhupada's chanting Jaya Radha Madhava. There's like 300 devotees in front of him, and he stops, and it's dead silent, and everyone's like, the whole room is like electric, while Prabhupada's in this internal samadhi of revelation and meditation. So then eventually one devotee started chanting Hare Krishna, and Prabhupada came out. Then after the class, one devotee was brave enough, when Prabhupada was upstairs in his quarters, asking him, what should they do when you do that? Or what should we do, Prabhupada? Because there was some discussion amongst the God brothers. You shouldn't have started chanting, you should have just kept quiet and let him relish it. So they want to know what to do. And Prabhupada became very embarrassed when he was informed of what had happened. Although he knew what happened, but he became very embarrassed, very sweet actually. He kind of was very embarrassed, and he wasn't at all. There wasn't any pride whatsoever. Yeah, did you see me? You know, I gave class and I went into ecstasy, went into samadhi. And you get to actually, if you watch closely, I mentioned before, you see senior devotees, tears. You will see them sometimes choke up, then they will control themselves and they will not let it interrupt. Or yeah, so that's the difference, a big difference. So that's why we've been educated by Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami that we have to make distinctions. We have to be what's the word? Discriminating. Yeah. If we see, like, if we see someone rolling around in ecstasy on the floor, we should think, we should just, wow, get the dust of their feet, get their remnants, you know. This must be an advanced Vaishnava. He was crying in a temple room, and in Kirtan he went wild, and he smashed all the ornaments in the place. Must be a little bit careful. Although there is many stories like that. Who's a devotee who could not control himself? He smashed all the items in a room in great ecstasy. He went into a fit of ecstasy.
Lord Chaitanya?
Yeah, apart from Lord Chaitanya, there's another. He's an associate of Lord Chaitanya. It's a story devotees like to tell because it's quite dramatic. I'll give you a clue. He was, see, I think I guess it. He had oiled hair. He had servants around him. Yeah, I guess by the oiled hair. Rich and needy. He was smoking hookah. I think something like. I think so. Yeah. All this chewing pan and spitting it in a silver bowl. Oiled hair, you know, scents over his body. And then who is it? Who went? It was Mukunda and Gadadhar. Yeah, and Mukunda took Gadadhar because whenever a great Vaishnava would come, they would like to go and take darshan. So come and see this great Vaishnava. You must come. You've got to come see this great Vaishnava. Mukunda took Gadadha. Gadadha, I can imagine seeing that, said, "You what? This is a great advancement." Then he began chanting one verse. I think it's whole about Krishna being so merciful that he gave the position of demon to Putana. Then that triggered off memories of Krishna, thoughts of Krishna, how compassionate he is, and that triggered off great ecstasy where he lost touch with where he was and what he was doing, and he was thrashing around on the floor. It took them apparently a long time to actually for him to come to his normal senses again. So that's an example. That is, there are examples like that. So, but we're not generally, we devotees won't follow that. But sometimes there's exceptions. Of course, someone mentioned Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. Yeah. So we're clear on that one, yeah? More questions? Yes. More questions. Okay, what about this one? How are the influence of the modes of nature and the sense of i-ness and my-ness purified by practice of semblance of devotion? Interesting question. Not by pure devotion. Apparently, this question seems to indicate that there's some purification from even a semblance of devotion. How's that happen?
Well, if one is chanting Hare Krishna, even in semblance, it would still become purified.
Yeah.
To a certain level.
That's correct. I would say, although it's not the answer that Marge gives here, but in our studies of Harinam Chintamani, we can conclude that unless they are Mayavadi, as you know. But anyone else has any ideas on this one?
I worked on it, so I don't want to say
Oh.
it because I was studying it. a little
No,
bit.
go on. What did you come up with?
I come up with when one performs devotional service in the mode of goodness, one makes progress from i-ness, my-ness. Kind of that kind of diminishes as you're making progress. You know.
Yeah, very, very good. So what Chandravati is doing is she's looking at the question, and the question has the page number next to it.
Then I'm reading the whole
Yeah.
paragraphs, and then I'm making my own.
Yeah, and that's what I've done. That's how I've done this as well, because I've got the answers. Because like here, like I showed, it's just a way of. Here's the answers I have here. You see. So I've done the same. I've gone to the page number, and I've managed to identify. But anyway, the answer that is the answer. So activities in goodness. So sattvic. So it's common ground for semblance of devotion. So so goodness invokes more goodness.
Yeah, that's why we.
Then it inspires devotees to act in a sattvic way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they become less passionate and less affected by passionate ignorance. Now that at the same time as hearing transcendental knowledge, when it becomes assimilated, then they awaken to more of an identification as Krishna's servant, rather than I-ness and my-ness. I am Krishna's servant. Yeah. So this might be the typical person who comes to the temple, doesn't have knowledge of Anyabhalasa Samyam, Jnana, Kamadi, Navritam, etc., do not know the principles of Sudha Bhakti, but they're sattvic, they're pious, and they're coming to the temple. And they hear about the principles. Yeah, so they take up the principles. And at the same time, they're hearing from devotees. So then they can make that transformation. Instead of being, now that's this, as we read in, I think we're reading in Sankapa Kamudi, this i-ness and my-ness hangs on for quite some time, as we've been reading, but unless one has a confident theoretical acceptance that I am Krishna's servant and my life shouldn't just evolve around me. Let's put Krishna in there. Let it evolve around Krishna's service. So there's a transformation, yeah, of that helps to purify. Yeah. But then the next question then says, why should we avoid acts of semblance or devotion? So semblance of so in this, yeah, someone said, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a semblance of devotion. We want real devotion.
Yeah, basically, if you cut to the chase, I mean, that's what we want. That's what we want, pure devotion, as we've just spoken. We want to, you know, because other semblance of devotion may lead to piety, but again, in the material
Although
world.
devotees used to say in some cases, you know, when someone says, "Oh, I'm, you know, I'm not that good," la la la, and some devotees used to say, "Fake it till you make it."
Yeah, fake it till you make it. Yeah, and that's, I think that's kind of addressed in the next question as well. It's in the same vein as that. But so that's good. That's good. Marge mentions here then he lures to the classic process, the gradual process of piety, being truthful, being clean, being regulated. You know, these are all kind of sattvic, or let me say, they are, that's the gradual way of elevating oneself. Let me just read it here, trying to explain it. It might be easier to just read here. The hallmark of Srila Prabhupada's true followers is the conviction that their approach to the path of perfection is the most painless and pragmatic. So pragmatic means it's practical. Yeah, it's accessible. Yeah, so Srila Prabhupada didn't advise us to practice a semblance of devotion. He gave us, he gave everyone right from the beginning the angas of bhakti, pure bhakti. He didn't do courses on how to control anger. Imagine Prabhupada doing courses how to control anger, or etc., etc. He just gave pure devotional service. Yeah. So Prabhupada didn't advise us the gradual path. And Marge mentions to actually attain perfection through that path, then it helps if the globe is practicing Varna and Ashram, which is highly unlikely. Yeah. So so persons in, like in the Vedic times, everything was favorable for the remembrance and cultivation, ultimately, at some point, of bhakti and a sattvic lifestyle. That was the whole atmosphere. Yeah. Now, the Varnashram doesn't exist in that state. Maharaj then mentions that, and even if ISKCON were to establish stable Varna and Ashram communities, then self-sufficient farms, then most devotees live in cities. So it's not really serviceable on a large scale. So that's the answer. I think that's the answer. Mother Chandravali, did you come up with something else for that, number 6?
I came up. One gets like conditioned or complacent in a way, like, you're comfortable with whole sadhana you're doing.
Yeah, it's so similar to the question we asked earlier, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Similar.
yeah, like that, Then you come to the point when you realize Krishna is the supreme,
Yeah.
It's the same kind of pattern.
Yeah. So the next question is kind of connected.
Yeah,
Is it the gradual route to pure devotion through the semblance of devotion more realistic than Srila Prabhupada's demanding one lifetime approach? And some devotees resign themselves to the semblance of devotion, and they give up the pure or the quest, which can be quite demanding from one perspective of attaining pure devotion and one lifetime going back to the spiritual world. And they take a back seat and become like, they become like your average Christian type thing. And attending the temple is a ritualistic thing, but one is not really desiring to purify their motives and come to the levels of pure devotion. So anyway, so this question, is it the gradual route to pure devotion through the semblance of devotion more realistic? Practically, if you consider the background a lot of people come from, at least in the West anyway. Why? Any answers to that?
I think of this, like when Prabhupada said to Bhakti Churu Maharaj, you spend so many lives coming and going and you've got nowhere. Just give this life to Krishna and see. If it's only one life, if you lose, you don't make any progress, just one life, So it's that kind of thing. So like, to me, I'm thinking like, Kali Yuga is progressing and one can't just be complacent and like, we have to really endeavor in this life, especially that we know the path and we've got the knowledge for it.
And also it's like, sorry,
Yeah,
did you?
Go on, Labanga.
Also, it's very dangerous to take that approach because Maya is very powerful. And if you're taking, the gradual route, then Maya could take you out. You could be lifetimes catching up.
Yeah, Maya could take you out. Yeah. It was reminding me of, I was just thinking of them.
Danger at every step in the material world.
Yeah. One, yeah, it's correct. I heard one statement that spiritual life is a gradual. It's as gradual as you make it. Understand? It's gradual as you choose to make it. So that's the correct answer Maharaj gives. He quotes Nehi Vikramo Nashrosti Prachurana Vijate Tradapam Sadamsa Trayati Mahatobhaya. It's true that anything you do is a permanent asset. So it will never be lost, even if you don't make it in this lifetime. Yeah. But then he mentions as well. Yeah,
us like a one lifetime approach. We've spent millions of lifetimes like doing things in the material world. One lifetime is like so quick. How would you not? It's like a gift that if you don't take that gift, then my God, where are your brains?
Yeah, where are your brains? Yeah, we don't take that. Don't take up the opportunity for the chanting of the Maha Mantra in the full sense of the term. Yeah, so that's correct. So Maharaj brings this up. He mentions that although Krishna says that there'll be no loss or diminution, but he doesn't guarantee that the world in 10, 20, 50, 100, 120 years from now in Kali Yuga is going to be a very favorable place or for you actually executing your devotional service may become very troublesome and very difficult. And we can see the power of Maya. That was what I was going to say as well. So the power of Maya, you may even be born in a family of devotees, but that's not going to guarantee you're going to follow through the path of pure devotional service, because Maya is very powerful, as we see. Not all the time, but we see quite a good number of devotee children become enamored by the glare of Maya. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
go
also
right into it.
it's like a blazing fire. So when you're in a blazing fire, it's an emergency. You do everything you can to get out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, don't worry. Let me come back while the fire's still burning. Yeah, so Maharaj mentions that if devotees consider the present environment troublesome, if now it's troublesome to the spiritual life, then we should assume that in the future it's going to be even more troublesome. Yeah, Kali Yuga is drifting into further degradation and chaos and mayhem. Yeah. So yeah, so let's take up Prabhupada's gift to us through the Maha Mantra. Yeah. All right, very, very good, very good. So let's number 8. Out of the 4 types of pious persons who approach him, Krishna, why does Krishna give special recognition to the Gyanis, to the wise? What's that verse? Chatur Vayam. 4 kinds of men approach Krishna. Anyone know the Sanskrit for that verse?
Chaturvidha bhajante mam.
Jana sukriti atuna aja jignasi atati gani cha paradashapa. The next verse describes those who don't come to him. Namam tiskunanam papanti naradama maya patakana asarim bhavam ashataha. So of those, yeah, any Tesam Gani Nityukta Eka Bhakti Vishishite Pyotyam Gatam Aham Sacha Mama Priyaha. So those who have knowledge, they're very dear to him. Priya, they're very dear to Krishna. They have knowledge and they're engaged in pure devotional service. So why does he give special recognition of those 4? Someone who's after wealth, someone who's after
Unhappiness.
Unhappiness.
One is in distress.
They're inquisitive and they're in distress. So of those, you say te samgani nityayukta. Of those, so why does he give special recognition to those?
The first 3 have come for some reason, and the chances are once they get that satisfaction, they can go away. But when the Jnani is looking for Krishna, then it's no question of going away. He just wants to purify himself to get closer to Krishna.
Yeah. Rajkishore is 10 points. Hare Krishna. Exactly it. Yeah. So what Krishna is saying indirectly, that everyone who comes to him has to cultivate knowledge in order to stay on the path. That's why, as Mother Rajkishore correctly said, the ones in knowledge, they are knowledge, which means they're not going to drift back. Yeah. So someone who comes to Krishna because they're in distress, great. That's great, fantastic. You come to Krishna, but the reason you came should not be the same reason you stay. Because when your distress goes, then you will go. Yeah, there is a chance that you'll go unless you develop knowledge. Yeah, unless you be very dear to Krishna, Priya, by developing knowledge of him, and therefore there's less chances that you will go. Yeah. So without being elevated to the position of a Jnani or a wise man, devotee cannot stick to the principle of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all those examples, what's the example given of the distressed person who approached Krishna?
Gajendra.
Gajendra, yeah, who was after wealth?
Dhruv,
Dhruv Maharaj,
Dhruva, who was inquisitive or curious,
the sages of Naimisharanya,
and yeah, and the seeker's knowledge was the
4 Kumaras.
Kumaras. Yeah. So all of them became purified. Dhruva Maharaj became purified by the touch of Krishna and Krishna's darshan, and he came to knowledge. Yeah. Gajendra as well. He had darshan of the Lord who came to actually save him. And the sages of Naimisharanya, they heard from Sutta Goswami, Srimad Bhagavatam, and they came to knowledge. Yeah. So they all became purified through knowledge. Okay, we're doing well. More questions?
it's the homework you gave us. We had to.
Ah. Yeah, so did you state, you must have, did you look from up to here, Chandravali? You covered these questions as well in this slide?
Yeah. And I did it up to the one out of 4 pious. I did it up to there.
Yeah, so it's nice, those of you who have the Sutta Bhakti-Chintamani, you can do a nice, do it for half an hour, something 10 minutes, 15 minutes, look at the questions and go through and try and identify what the answer is. It's a nice study. I was doing it an hour before I was preparing for this, and I was looking at the book and finding out.
It gives
So
you a
this-
chance to read the couple of pages, like, you know, from
yeah,
trying to understand how it started and the end.
yeah. So here we have question 9. Why are karma, jnana, and yoga fruitless when practiced without at least a trace of devotion? Marge quotes a verse from the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as an answer to this. Ye yata mam padyante maya yata no pachatam tadeva jami mapmunvatante manusya pata shavashaha. Any? So why are karma, jnana, and yoga fruitless when practiced without at least a trace of devotion?
Well, keep one in the material world.
Yeah.
without devotion.
So some of these questions that you got to, if some of these questions, I have to admit, are more clear when you read the answer. It can be a little bit misleading, someone like this one, I think. Basically what Maharaj is saying here, what the Srila Bhakti-Chintamani has said, and that we study, is only when karma, jnana, and yoga, karma, jnana, and yoga are linked to Krishna in some way, albeit even a small part, that they can get the results of their practice. So as Krishna says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path, not just the bhaktas. My path is the absolute all-pervading. He is the giver of grace. So if someone's doing karma, jnana, or yoga, within their practice, they have to acknowledge or give some sense of offering and respect to Krishna, which is bhakti. And only then will they be able to get the fruits of their endeavors. Yeah. So Krishna only responds to devotional service. So there must be a trace of devotion before it can induce Krishna to give the Jnani knowledge, to give the person doing karma some material facility. Something has to be there. Yeah. Is there any questions on that? I have a question that just came to mind upon that. What about, we're speaking about Gyan, someone who's doing karma, it means they're pious, they're doing their rituals with a sense of subservient to the devas, etc. Whatever it might be. Jnana, they're studying, maybe studying Vedanta, yoga. They're trying to understand the all-pervading supreme and how he manifests the life as. So then they get the fruits of their activities, maybe prosperity for karmis. So what's happening with a gross materialist who's not here? There ain't nothing, there ain't no devotion. They're just doing their work as much as they can to get their material light. For instance, how did Hiranyakashipu become so, if I use the word, stinking rich? Excuse me. So rich, he practically, his palace was made of gold, but he won't practice no bhakti, that's for sure. And what about materialists who are atheists, you know? They don't even believe in God, but they live in a detached house by Thames in Richmond. You know, the house on the lawn. Look at they go in their back garden. The lawn overlooks the Thames going by, and there's swans there. Nice lawn, big house. You know, 2 cars, 3 cars they have, but they don't believe in God. They're atheists.
Because they believe life is enjoyment.
Because what?
They believe life is for enjoyment. You have one life, enjoy it, you know.
Yeah, but why did I get, if they're atheists, why don't they just get thrown in a hole and get nothing?
Previous
Why?
karma, previous accumulated karmas, maybe.
Yeah.
Pious activities in the previous lives, and they kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Mother. Yeah, that's, I mean, I'm asking the question myself. I haven't got the answer written here. But yeah, definitely previous karma. Now, what could we say about the position that they have? Is it going to last?
No.
Oh.
Use it up and then they'll fall.
Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, yeah. That's what's actually going to happen. They're whatever they have, and if they're acting atheistically, they are quickly diminishing their good credits, are quickly diminishing. And what they have, they're not going to have it in the next life. They may be degraded to that of an animal in the next life, you know. In their very sattvic, say I gave an example of a detached house looking over the Thames at Richmond. Then they're eating venison, they're eating, they're going to steak houses, doing all types of abominable things, venison, I won't even describe what that is. That's such abominable venison. So they accumulate, so it's what they have is very, very ephemeral, very, very superficial. And by their lifestyle, it's where Lakshmi then is very achanchula, is very flickering. So they have it for a small time, then it goes. But the wealth that comes through connection to pious acts, it's a sign of their continued well-being in the next life, even materially. But again, it's very dangerous because we're living in materialistic society, so one may become degraded at some point. Anyway, but I think that's, yeah. Anything else on that? And so that, yeah. Let's look. Yeah, thank you, Monica, Mother, for that. You helped us to understand that. Yeah, it's the karma, but not when it's given by Krishna, even if it's a slight trace of devotion, then that's very good. Then it's not a chanchula. It's not going to come. It's not going to go. No, it will come. It will stay. All right. So, what are the drawbacks of the indirect path to pure devotional service? think we discussed that a little bit. So the indirect path may be the path of jnana, like here, jnana.
It can take you such a long time to get to the
Yeah,
A few thousand births before we got.
yeah, a few billion births it could take, a long time.
to- And on the way, you could get lost anyway.
Yeah.
Better not take that path.
This answer is quite interesting. I'll just read it here. In Kali Yuga, the indirect devotional paths of Gyan and Karma are extremely narrow and hazardous. Originally, they were intended to lead one to the shrine of devotional service through the association of saintly persons, through the process of offering results of one's work to Krishna. Yeah, so Nishkam Karma Yoga. So not attached, doing it out of a sense of duty because it's the good religious thing to do. So, but Maja mentioned that in Kali Yuga, everything's contaminated. So one, in order to Karma Yoga, you got to follow the directions of a saintly person in order to correctly, so they can quickly guide you in your religious duties and activities. But to find a real saintly person is very difficult. I remember one time I was in India, this was years ago, and we was on a bus going somewhere. We was getting on the bus from the station or something. We was going, I forget where, I think it was on the way to Vrindavan. And these ladies came up to us. And they obviously they looked like they come from the slum type area. You know, it was dressing raggedy clothes. And they was imploring us, please come to our village, please come to our house, because someone has died. And there was no other sadhus or saintly persons around. And they wanted to come for, I don't know whether someone had died, I can't remember now. But they wanted us to go to their house to do, just by going to their, because I thought, what they're asking the Westerners, they couldn't find any sadhus around. And unfortunately, it was very busy, it was very passionate, and we all got freaked out of it. It was one of the first times in India. So we do, we're not going to just leave the party and go somewhere in Delhi, in the slums of Delhi. And so we didn't. But for me, it just highlighted, I just remember that as reading here now, one really sees a saintly person because they've been replaced by pseudo saintly persons who are just out to get their money. Yeah. So, and religious duties are generally performed not to cleanse one's consciousness, yeah, but to get something material back. Yeah? So therefore, these secondary paths are no longer very useful. Yeah. Maharaj even mentions here that even the process of deity worship, which gave the highest success in Dwapar, has become impure and degraded. Of course, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we have the example of what deity worship should really be about. And it's a lot of and it's the example that the whole of India are inspired by. That reminds me of another story. Pankajanri or Janivas would tell this story. There was this big group, when they come to take darshan in Mayapur from a village or a family. Normally, as you know, in India, when they go for darshan, they travel in groups of 15 or 20 people. The whole family come, everyone in the village, they came, and this lady was standing in front of Radha Madhav and the Astasakis. And she was in ecstasy, and she was repeating and imploring all her family members and pointing at Radha Madhav saying, see, this is devotion. This is devotion. Can't you see? This is devotion. She was ecstatic, The whole atmosphere is so good. So we're actually showing what in real devotion to deities means, the shringar, the dressing every day, and the bhoga offerings. In India, in South India, you might find, but in most places, you're hard to find. Yeah, hard. They maintain deities to get money, no? If you build a temple somewhere, people will come and give money. That's the only reason they do prana pratishtha. It's like a whole money thing, unfortunately. So, wow, time is shot away. What about question 11? Why do Srila Prabhupada's teachings emphasize instituting Varnashram Dham when Bhaktivinoda Thakur declared it ineffective in this age? So there's a contradiction. You can find Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Here it says, here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jai Vidama, whatever it may be, Varnashram is ineffective. Forget about it. But Prabhupada, I was just reading last night, actually, the other day, Prabhupada is speaking so much about the importance of society being correctly situated in Varna and Ashram.
Prabhupada is talking about Daivi Varnashram, whereas Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking that normal Varnashram we have in India, which is out of greed and all that.
Yeah,
That's not going to be effective.
Yeah. Well, Maharaj doesn't actually use them two words, Devi Varnashram and mundanes, or just
Asuri
Varna.
Varnashram.
Yeah. Let me just read this here because a bit short time. Srila Prabhupada saw that Varnashram could be made effective if its external form was adjusted to facilitate its essential purpose. So the essential purpose of Varnashram, the essential purpose of it, above everything else, all the duties, is that people become elevated spiritually. Yeah, and anyone can become elevated in any division of human society. That's Devi Varnashram. And they get elevated to what? Pure devotional service. So the external form is just a social structure to facilitate that purpose. So Maharaj mentions, although Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur notes that the traditional form, Devi Varnashram, has decayed, Srila Prabhupada saw that its underlying purpose must be fulfilled. So in order to accomplish that mission, Srila Prabhupada preserved the essential purpose of Varnashram in a form adapted to modern times. So read here, ISKCON is the form of Srila Prabhupada chose for organizing Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement into a society. To fulfill Varnashram's essential purpose in ISKCON, he chose to institute 4 regulative principles and the chanting of a minimum number of Hare Krishna Mahamantras. In the traditional Varnashram system, the general public was first trained to be pious, to do pious deeds or semblance of devotion. This meant treading the indirect path by practicing cleanliness, truthfulness, austerity, and mercy. Then afterwards, they were engaged in pure devotional practices of hearing and chanting about Krishna. So Prabhupada gave the essence of Varnashram. Yeah. So that was Prabhupada's God-inspired intelligence when he saw the Western world. He understood what is needed here. Yeah. So he gave the essence of it. All right. And so here's some homework for next week. What's the day today? Tuesday.
You're not
Is that
going
right? Yeah. I say I'm coming back on Tuesday, so I shall let you know if I'll be able to make it next Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm not too sure what the time we're flying back. But anyway, here's a question. It's quite a well-known question. If God is one, why are there so many religions in the world? All right, so I'll leave you with that. There's one level of answer, and there's a deeper level to answer this question. All right.
Okay.
So if you have Sudha Bhakti Samna, you can cheat. You can look in the book, look where the page number is, and you can identify it. I think, and this question is exactly stated there. But have a think over it yourself. And how would you answer that? If you're in a temple, someone stops you, or your friend, or your uncle, or your family members, they ask you a question. If there's God is one, why is there so many religions, Mum? Why is there so many religions in the world? What would you say? All right, so I'll leave you that, leave it on the cliffhanger. And tomorrow, yeah, we'll be around tomorrow. And tomorrow, what's tomorrow? Is
Harinam
Harinam
Chintamani.
Chintamani. Yes, very exciting. Harinam Chintamani. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. Wonderful. Thank you for your very wonderful answers. Wonderful discussion.
Thank you. Hari Bol.
Very, very enlightening.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
See you
Krishna.
tomorrow.